Hey everybody, welcome to the program. You are listening to Act 3 on CHOY 101.7 FM. I'm Kathy Holmes. I am your host, and I am so delighted to have the brand new Executive Director from Nanaimo Hospice, Paige Karzinsky, is with us today. Hey Paige, how are you?
Hi, Kathy. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
I'm so glad. It is Monday, and being the Monday, we always try to do well on a Monday, don't
Right?
we? Yeah, no
We're
kidding.
here. We woke up. We're,
We
we're,
woke
we're
up.
making moves.
We're on
So
the move. So, just so our audience knows, you are the brand new executive director, as I mentioned in the intro. And I'm just curious, how did that all come about? So, tell us about your coming to hospice.
it's actually a very interesting story. I am not from Nanaimo. I have been in Nanaimo for the last 5 years. I'm definitely going to be here for the long term. It is going to be my home. I consider it my home already. I'm originally from Ontario. I had my own encounter experience with hospice in Ontario. And so hospice has always been near and dear to my heart because the resources and just the support that they have provided my family, myself, when we had a death in the family was unmatched. So moving to Nanaimo, I know a few people involved in the hospice. I was in the post-secondary world, actually. So very different. And
Way different, but it isn't, I suppose, because when you're in post-secondary, there's an element of education that goes with it. And a hospice is all about having educational opportunities.
exactly, and being an
Yeah,
advocate and working with those,
yeah.
we're trying to get the word out there and working with government and, hospice is important. We are a part of the hospital world, but a lot of people really get confused or just think it's all one thing. So it's, it was a big jump for me, definitely a learning curve. But I'm enjoying it and I feel so at home. I've never actually felt that in any of my careers or positions or whatnot. Just so welcomed right off the hop. So I'm just happy to be here.
Well, we're really glad that you're here. I mean, I have had a long relationship with hospice long before the Nanaimo gig and your enrollment, or not enrollment, I beg your pardon, but your agency's membership in the Nanaimo Senior Services Network,
Yeah.
among other things. Um, but hospice for me, like you, it came from a personal experience. You
Yeah.
know, I sort of went through it in 2002 when I lost both my mother and my sister in the same year to liver and bowel cancer and to leukemia. And so, I mean, I knew hospice back then,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh my God. And then when I met the former executive director, Janie Fallman,
Yes. Lovely.
Janie and I like hit it off like cats on fire. Like it was just like boom, automatic combustion fabulousness. And I have truly over the last few years watched Nanaimo Hospice grow and expand and changes, of course, and but all good things require a little bit of change from time to time. But some of the things that really inspire me about hospice are your programs. So why don't we break down some of the programs that you guys are doing?
So well, it's been a very interesting year, as you know.
No doubt.
Uh,
COVID has
we,
definitely ratcheted
but
everything.
we've adapted. We're doing okay. So we do offer a number of programs and services. We have a number of grief groups, like traumatic loss support. We have one-on-one peer support. We have counseling services for both adult and child and youth. With that too, we actually acquired an outreach vehicle in 2019. So we are able to go to the school districts and see children and youth that are in need. Um, we have volunteers working in the palliative care unit, which has been paused right now. So a lot of our stuff is, well, hospice is human connection, right?
It is
It
totally.
is. So we really felt it with COVID. I mean, I wasn't in the role. I kind of came in at the end, and just to see the differences and how they've adapted and how we continue to adapt is amazing.
Yeah.
I guess the silver lining of COVID with our programs and services is we've really been able to see how we can move forward and like increase our accessibility now that because we're doing a lot of our counseling sessions on Zoom or on the phone. Same with a lot of our grief groups. We have started to slowly open and restart some programs. We are doing a Reiki by appointment for clients here in the house. We are seeing children that are comfortable coming in, and slowly but surely, hopefully we'll kind of we're going to start up our walking group again on the weekends for clients and our volunteers. Our thrift shop has been reopened. So we're getting there, but we do have a number of things that have had to adapt, and it's just amazing. Not only staff wise, but also volunteers, how it's incredible how everybody is able to bend and grow so quickly, because not only we had to, but there's so much more to it now, and even though we don't have that human touch face to face anymore, we still have that connection through this.
Absolutely. And physical touch may be one part of it, is to have that personal
Yeah.
connection. But, we've all had to adapt with Zoom. And for listeners who just tuned in, they know that this particular broadcast is done exclusively on Zoom at this
Yeah.
point. We've not returned back to the radio station. And I don't see that happening, at least for this program, for quite some time to come.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, just if you do hear bells and whistles and barking of dogs and, ringing of doorbells and phones ringing and computers going ding ding and phones going zap zap, just it's all part of the Zoom experience. But how have you, speaking of the Zoom experience in specific to hospice, how have you guys been able to adapt? Are you noticing an uptick of people that are needing hospice services, since there has been such an incredible, we've seen a lot of people pass over. Death doesn't stop for anything.
No.
It does continue no matter what. And then you have on top of it a pandemic.
Exactly. We definitely have seen a huge increase. A lot of it is with the grieving process, because the grieving process is completely different now. You don't get to have, that you get to go home, or you go to a funeral, or you get to visit with family, or someone that is terminal, you may not be able to go in. It's incredibly difficult. The grieving process has changed because there's that added layer. We are facing a lot more people in almost crisis because of isolation. They're having a lot more difficulties working through their grief, or even anticipatory grief, because you don't know what's to come. The normal is not normal anymore, right? So it's scary, but it's actually also wonderful though, because everybody's really, I don't know if it's more of a safer space too. We're finding a lot of people are opening up a lot easier because they're at home. They don't have to do those little hurdles of getting into the car and getting over those normal little things. But when you're grieving, that's incredibly hard. Like, I don't know what my PIN number is to fill up gas. Like, I'm not thinking straight, like I'm grieving. So we are finding a lot of people really, really kind of coming to hospice, opening up, being a lot more vulnerable. And I think our services have, we've kept pretty current in numbers, but we do get a lot more people reaching out, and it's accessibility too, because they don't actually have to physically come in. So I think that is something that we will continue to operate. We would love to get back to the face-to-face stuff, and some of it does require that, but just to be able to have, if we can hop on a phone call, then let's do it. So it's very interesting, and my heart hurts for those who are grieving during these times, but then, we're doing what we can. Everyone's grieving. You're grieving I'm grieving my social life, it's just grief has.
Well, and I think that opens, I was, just going to point that out, that you've made some terrific points in regards to people are grieving very differently. There's not that connection. I had the luxury when my mother and sister passed away way back when, I was with both of them. I took the last breath out of their mouths, right? It was such a great privilege. And now, we're just opening up the hospital where maybe you're allowed to have one visitor, and that's a maybe, right?
Exactly. You never know. It's bated breath, because things are ever changing, right?
Ever changing. And so I wonder, you're right. Remembering your PIN number when you're at the gas station isn't on the top of your priority list. And it's harder when you're having to put your shoes and coat on to go somewhere. It is really that push. So to have this Zoom opportunity to be able to talk, or the telephone opportunity to talk with people, are you feeling like, are you seeing that this is I mean, I'm not even sure what my question is because I'm just so, I never even, it didn't even dawn on me actually, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense, that this would be a new way to grieve. And
Well, that's exactly it.
for people to do it in this format.
Yeah.
So what have been some of the experiences? Can you give us some examples where you've seen some real light at the end of a tunnel where someone has been otherwise maybe unwilling to come forward?
Well, I think, because we're all missing that sense of community,
Yeah.
there has been such an increase in willingness to create community.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful to sit in on some of, follow-ups and debriefs of some of the groups that are happening and how open and willing and vulnerable people want to be, even though we're connecting over screen and we aren't going to meet for the near future anyways. But it's just the sense of community hasn't been lost. And if
Yes.
anything, I feel like it's been highlighted more. So that's wonderful. And I really do think with the whole COVID and pandemic and everything, isolation and mental health and grieving has really come to the surface that we need to pay attention. So like an organization like hospice, the work that we do, there is such value in it. And I feel like it's being highlighted more because people are really struggling because the isolation, every intake that we come through, isolation is always touched upon.
Yeah.
That word is just, I'm so isolated. I can't see my family. I can't, I wasn't able to be there when someone passed or have that closure piece, right? So we haven't lost our sense of community. And I feel like, the silver lining for hospice and other like-minded organizations, that this is starting to come to the surface of the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful in that sense.
Yeah, indeed. And yes, there are challenges. Have you found any particular challenges that have come your way? And I never like to focus on challenges. The reality is, the business of living means that once in a while there's going to be a little something, something that's a pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely face challenges. I mean, I think every organization, whether it's a not-for-profit or, a corporate organization, has faced extreme challenges throughout this pandemic. We've definitely felt the loss, like the house has been closed, so we feel the loss of our volunteers. The house doesn't have that lively energy.
Yes. Yes.
People aren't coming in and saying hello, and our wonderful volunteers, a lot of them have took a COVID pause because we're not running programs or whatnot. I mean, we do have a number of volunteers still working with our thrift shop, which is wonderful. We always will have those challenges with technology, but everybody is very willing to, I mean, it's kind of the new norm that it's like, okay, if it's not working, we don't just kind of give up and move on.
That's right. We reinvent the wheel and we find another way to get the job done.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And speaking of getting the job done, you touched on volunteers. I know from so many nonprofits that I work with in community that the volunteer numbers for a while there, it was saturated. We didn't have enough volunteers. And now, of course, because of COVID, we found that people have taken a redirection into what it is that they're doing. Are you still accepting new volunteers? Are you having a training program online? Let's talk a little about that.
That's exciting stuff. Yes, we actually, we can always use more volunteers. We love our volunteers. Our volunteers are a huge part of what makes us us. And then we're excited to say that we are going to be doing our training program come September. So we'll be accepting, I think 12. I think we agreed on 12 because we have to have the smaller numbers, the cohort of 6. So it's going to be a little bit different in the delivery, but we're going to try and keep it as much as same as possible and not lose that touch piece to it. We are going to adapt some pieces of it to online. Like
I was going to say, is there an online adaptation that that people can consider to take, or will there at least be some parts where you'll have that human content?
Yes. So it's looking like we're going to split it into like a mixed delivery where it is, more of the theory or the videos or whatever they need to go through is going to be online. You can do that at your home and have our little breakout rooms over Zoom, and then definitely have the face-to-face piece because there are some integral pieces to that training program that you need to have that human connection piece. So, but it's very exciting, and with it being a smaller group, we'll be able to do that safely and adhere to all the rules. And I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but we're hoping for the best.
So I know, and hospice always does do the best. I mean, there's no question that these are, our community is just a better place because hospice is in it for sure.
But
So
that's,
I want to go back to that training thing for a second. You said that the cohort will have maybe a dozen people or so in it. Is there an application process? Is there a fee to do the training?
there is. So if
Yes.
if you are interested in,
Yeah.
I think she has, it might be up live. If it will be, it's coming up on our website, so nanaimohospice.com. There, I believe there was a wait list because they wanted to do a training program last year, which got canceled. So I think we're working through those folks if they're interested still at this time and seeing if it works for their schedule for September. If not, we'll be posting and kind of putting the call out for folks. So stay tuned on that, but that would be through our website and social medias that we'll be putting that out. And
Yep.
it's just
Perfect.
right.
Which is the perfect segue, actually. I always around this time of the show tell people, slip away for half a second. Don't worry, we're still going to keep talking and you can just keep slipping, but we always want to make sure you have a piece of paper and a pen so that you can be in touch with hospice so you can get their information. So go get your piece of paper, ladies and gentlemen, while Paige and I continue to have a conversation. If you have just tuned in, you turned into Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. Right here in beautiful Nanaimo, we broadcast all the way down to Duncan, all the way past Campbell River, across over to the Sunshine Coast and even into North Vancouver. And of course, you can also follow us on our YouTube station. So by all means, if you've enjoyed this program or you want to see it again or an encore performance, just head on over to the YouTube station and you can get us there. In the meantime, in the booth with me, in the Zoom booth, and the Zoom booth is Paige Karzinsky, and she is the new Executive Director with Nanaimo Hospice. So hopefully people are back from getting their pen and paper, and in a little bit we'll send them, we'll give them the information again. Perfect. So, you know, you said you came from Ontario. I have to tell you, I've never met somebody from Ontario I didn't like.
Oh,
right.
So I got the seal of approval or stamp of approval.
But I'm curious what brought you all the way from over there. I mean, in all fairness, it is cold there in the wintertime, so I'm sure there's something to do with that. But tell us what brought you here in the first place.
It's a very interesting story. I mean, I'm Ontario, I love it, have no inclination to return to be a resident other than just to visit. My younger brother accepted a job a number of years ago up in northern BC, and I went up to visit him and I applied for a job up there. This is back in my post-secondary world. And I got the job and I have been a BC resident for almost 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
And then I made the move to Nanaimo. Yeah, 2016, I believe. Yeah. So, and now you guys can't get rid of me.
Oh, I know.
I'm staying.
I'm a Vancouverite. So I came over from Vancouver. Actually, this is a sillier story because back in 1981, when I left the mainland and moved to Victoria, and I had a choice between going to Victoria or coming to Nanaimo for school and for other things. And I was like, where do I want to go? So I landed and I went, no, I'm not moving to Nanaimo. This is not for me. And so I went to Victoria and I lived in Victoria for, I don't know, 10 years or so. Then I went back to the mainland, and I remember my sister saying to me, because she was older than I was and she'd lived in Victoria for years, and she said, oh, Cal, she says, you know, if you ever get to the island and live on the island and you leave, you will always go back. And I was like, there's no way I'm going back. I'm on the mainland now.
And now here we are.
11 years ago, I was like, oh, dang, here I am. And Nanaimo was my destination because it is so different than it was 11 years ago.
Right. Well, I mean, it's so different even from what it was 5 years ago. Like I look and I'm like, holy Hannah, like I've been here for 5 years. And there's things I'm like, okay, like this is night and day difference.
And it's getting more and more fabulous every day. Just saying. And it's partially because you're here, Paige.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's it. Exactly.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about what's happening in regards to, I know that the bus was created a few years back. In fact, I was at the opening debut when the bus came, and it was a marvelous, it is the coolest bus ever. Like it is just so amazing. And it's so great for youth and young people. And I'm curious what's happening with the bus. You know, in the COVID part, how are kids relating to grief? And, you know, is the bus being utilized or like what's happening?
We actually, so beginning of the year, we started the outreach vehicle back up. We have Jim out there, out and about. He's probably making carving. Yeah, he's one of our counselors.
Yeah.
Carving out a day or two a month, depending, and going to individual schools, because there's actually quite a list of children out there that are grieving, and it's just easier for them to, if they're at school, they can pop out and have a session with Jim. And like you said, the outreach vehicle is fantastic.
So fantastic.
It's all inclusive. It's got everything for your player therapies, and it's just, well, it's a one-stop shop. We'll bring it to you. Yeah. So we are working with the school district. He's popping into all the schools throughout, and we're doing what we can. We're still minding the COVID protocols and doing whatever. So we're not full capacity. I mean, he is still here accepting patient or clients through online and phone calls and whatnot. And like I said, some kids are coming in here because we have a great children's space too. So it's just, we're kind of just going with the punches that we are served for the pandemic, and trying to make it work. It's just.
Speaking of punches, how's the funding going?
The fun.
Because we know that with COVID, so many nonprofit agencies have lost their ability to do their traditional fundraising methods.
That's the huge piece. We are experiencing, I mean, we've done a great job pivoting, but it's not the same. We're doing what we can. I mean, if anyone knows hospice, we rely heavily on our community support. I think only about 25 to 30% of us is funded. The rest is through donations and the community support. So we're doing what we can. We've had to adjust. We are actually running, it's our 40th, and it's so sad because it's our 40th anniversary this year.
Oh my goodness.
So we would have loved to have
this overall, or just the Nanaimo Hospice?
Nanaimo. Just
yeah. Wow.
So it's a very exciting time, but it's, we can't have people come in for a garden party or a barbecue to celebrate or anything like that. So we've had to really do what we can. We're doing some online stuff. We've moved our Hike for Hospice to a virtual base. That was last year. We have scheduled it to happen in person in September, but we'll have to see how that works out. If not, we'll probably move again to a virtual. We're doing a 50-50 draw right now in honor of our 40th anniversary. So if you want to purchase your tickets.
I was going to say, where do we get the tickets?
Do it now, because
people have their paper and their pen, so they have to be able to get the tickets.
Yes. So it's all online this year. Like, I mean, normally we would have people handing out paper tickets. So you go to nanaimohospice.com. We have the tickets up there for sale. There's $10 for one, $30 for 5, and $50 for 10. I believe the pot is just shy of $8,000 right now.
Whoa.
So, I mean, yeah, that's a nice little summer treat for yourselves. There's 2 weeks, draws June 1st. So we're doing that. We're doing a few other things. Another really exciting initiative that we're working on as well is we are launching our very first Dream Home Lottery.
Woo-hoo!
So that's our big fundraiser. And the whole reason behind that, of why we're doing that, is because there is such a need for a standalone hospice facility. We need, like, they're over at the hospital, it's over 200% capacity for the palliative care and all that. So we need a standalone hospice facility with some beds. By doing this Dream Home Lottery, it's going to provide us that little nest egg to start building that campaign for that. So that's coming. Stay tuned for that. It's a beautiful home up in the foothills, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 300.
Foothills. Where are the foothills? Up by Westwood Plateau?
No, North Nanaimo, like towards Landsville, district of Landsville.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's up there.
Not Westwood Plateau anyway. That's Vancouver, actually. It's. I was thinking Westwood Lake area.
Oh, yeah.
There. Yeah.
No, up in Landsville foothills, beautiful view of the Winchelseas. Everything is gorgeous.
Has it already been built, or is that part of the whole process?
Building right now. Well, all of our permits have been approved. We're moving forward. We're just putting fill in because of it's on that slope. So there is shovels in the ground per se, but it's going to be happening. So we're very excited. Tickets not officially on sale yet, but probably by the end of the summer. Yeah. So yeah, it's a very exciting time for hospice, even though it's different. fundraising is a very different look this year. It's very exciting.
Well, I mean, what's amazing is I think people understand the importance of hospice. Hospice has already, is ingrained in so many of us. I know even when we did, not when we did, I participated, is all I'm saying, but we didn't do anything.
We as a community.
You guys, in the last few years, I've had the privilege of participating, and it was different this year.
Yes.
Without a doubt. But it's just still so important that we continue to do the very best we can whenever we can.
Absolutely.
And if you've ever been touched by hospice, if you've ever had to, endure the passing of someone that you love, you just can't get better than a hospice for the supports that you need. I mean, you just can't. And so if you're in a rough time, and I guess this is I didn't really ask you to do this, but I know that our community is grieving right now.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm watching it in so many levels, right? Yeah. Not only are people not able to do some of the things that they're used to doing with family and friends, there's a lot of people, of course, that now have had maybe their first shot. Maybe they're not fully immunized yet, and so they're starting to come out. But there are a lot of seniors, for example, older adults in our community, or people with disabilities that have not been able to get out and be in the world very much at all. And so as a result, some of their social skills have also been lost, right? So they're grieving, not only are they missing the postman and, every other part of their normality, but they also no longer are capable of doing some of the things that they were able to do simply because this year has just been so tough. Yeah. And so I guess I'm wondering, could you offer, and I'm putting you a little on the spot, my apologies, you can deflect this if you like, but are there any tips or any suggestions that you could, imbibe on our community that might be helpful during this time of such deep grief?
I just think, acknowledge that you're grieving.
Yeah.
That it's okay to grieve. Everybody's grieving in some capacity or another.
Yeah.
And grief comes in so many different formats. So I think, just acknowledge, and there are a number of resources like hospice, as well as other resources here in Nanaimo that are able to be there for you in some capacity, or, be able to refer you to where you should be going.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, just really lean into the resources that are available. There's so many free resources where all of our stuff is free. It doesn't matter if you don't have any money to pay for counseling, we offer it.
Yeah.
There's lots here in Nanaimo. So I feel acknowledge it and just really lean into the resources that are available, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think people need to just be okay with it. And it's okay to grieve, right? I think that that's a big thing for people, is to sort of allow yourself to be that vulnerable.
Yeah. And be kind to yourself.
Yes, of course, be kind.
It's a very different time to be grieving. Grief is very different right now. Mm-hmm. You gotta be nice to yourself. Yeah. Just like, it's whatever it is right now. I don't even know what it is, but it's just.
But that's the truth of it, is I think for so many of us, we don't, what is grief as a cookie cutter vision for one person doesn't really exist for so many others, right? I know with my mom and my sister when they passed, and I had the luxury of being with them, right? I didn't grieve for my mother until 3 years after she passed away. And it was because I was in that space, which so many people are, as caregiver, right? You're a caregiver. So you're in that, you know what I mean? Like that you're in that motion. And I was standing over in a Save-On Foods or one of the grocery stores, standing over cantaloupes 3 years later, and suddenly found myself just like a mess, right? Because that's what grief felt like for me in that moment, right? So for some people, it's okay if you're acting, frustrated or angry or sad, or like, honor your emotions.
It's okay to not be okay. Like,
it's okay to not be okay.
And just allow it, like allow yourself to seek out those resources and work through it. And we are here to help. Us as many other resources in Nanaimo, but
how do people reach you besides your website? Can they call you? Is there a receptionist working now back in the
we're all back in the house, actually. although we're closed to public, we are in the house. So we are at 250-591-8811. So that we have our phones, our social medias. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We're on our website. There is ways to, if you can get on the website, have someone connect with you. So we're here. If you have to bang on the door, we'll answer. So
Paige, for those that are nervous about making that call, what can they expect when they call you?
Hospice, it's just, I don't know how many words I could put it in. It's just a hug. We're here, if you just need to unload, we're here to listen. So if you're here, you're calling, you're nervous to call, there's no need to be nervous. We're here for you. We're here to work with you to, make you feel better about your grief and work through your grief and get you on to the other side that, you're okay. So everybody here, my own experience on a totally different platform. I was new and I came into, a learning curve of a job, and I feel instantly at home like a family.
Yeah.
So that I can't speak enough about the volunteers and the staff here, and just how welcoming, how caring and compassionate everybody is. We're just here for you. So, I know it's a hard thing, grief and death and bereavement and all the things with it is a scary place to navigate, but that's what we're here for.
Well, and I think it's also really important that we know that grief isn't just for older people, right? It is, for years there has been this thought that, people that are going to hospice, for example, or in palliative care, they're getting ready to pass over. They know they're passing over. They're over a certain age or demographic. But what people don't understand is that grief, we've talked about a little bit ago, we talked about, the youth bus or the kids bus, right? Grief starts really early and manifestates so differently depending on the age of the person. And so if you have a 5 or 6 year old or 7-year-old that is grieving, it's okay to call hospice about a 5 or 6 or 7-year-old. It's not, you don't have to be 80 years old and have just lost your partner to be, in grief, right?
That's exactly it. Everybody's grieving, whether it is a grandparent or a parent or a sibling, but, there are those traumatic losses too that happen that are unexpected. So, everybody is going to grieve differently. A child is going to grieve much differently than an adult. So, and it all depends even too of what kind of grief you're dealing with. Is it anticipatory? Like, are you expecting someone to pass? Are you, who did you lose? How did you lose them? So it's just, there's not one size fits all. There isn't. So.
And you have a number of fantastic counselors. Let's talk a little bit about them.
So we have 2 in-house counselors. We actually are posting for another child and youth counselor if anyone's interested.
Good to know.
But we do have 2 in-house counselors, and they're wonderful. They both serve our adult clients and our child and youth clients, and they're just a godsend. So, their plates are full. We are looking for another counselor to come on board specifically for child and youth, because we are feeling like the increase has just been there. And so we need to be able to respond to that demand. We have our program and service coordinator here in-house too. So she operates and kind of oversees all of our programs and our services as grief groups and whatnot. So yeah, that team is wonderful. Yeah.
You have an amazing team, and hospice has done some really incredible things. Do you have a new vision for what hospice will look like moving ahead? You've got some big stuff happening. There's a lottery happening. You've got tell us more. Is there anything that you see that you'd love to see an expansion to?
We definitely want to grow and expand. I think as time continues, there is much more acknowledgement to the work that hospice does on its own and how it operates. So I think we're just going to continue moving forward and being advocates for hospice and the work that we do. Definitely would love to see us go into more of a clinical side, getting like a standalone hospice facility, and then just continuing our programs and services, our community services like counseling and some of the groups and programs. But definitely more, it would be nice, the 5-year dream would be moving towards a standalone hospice facility and being able to respond to that overwhelming need for beds and clinical support. So that is the goal. That's what we're working towards. But I mean, it's a very interesting time, and it's very exciting though too. So we're kind of at a really pivotal time where we're receiving more acknowledgement on like the government levels too, that of what hospice is doing and what how we need to be supported. So I think we've got big things
So
coming.
delighted to hear that the government is acknowledging the great work that hospice does. That is long respect. I'm not a politician or political kind of person, but I'm always delighted when I hear the government go, wait a second, this nonprofit has done such an amazing thing, and holy crap, how did we miss this?
Exactly. And we're working closely with some of our top doctors here in Nanaimo, and the support from them alone is
phenomenal.
So it's nice that we are moving in that trajectory, that we're getting the acknowledgement. People are advocating for the work of hospice, and let's be able to respond. So we need to grow. So it's a very exciting time to come in. And I mean, I'm excited to kind of put my mark on it and be a part of this for the long term. And we've just got some really exciting things coming, hopefully in the near future, but
I'm delighted for you. I'm curious about something though. Our world is becoming much more aware of cultural diversity. And particularly when it comes to grief, there are so many different cultures that bereave differently. I'm just curious if you could speak to that a little bit.
Like, it's phenomenal what individual cultures or communities do to work through grief and honor grief and whatnot. So, we are always, Nanaimo Hospice is a part of the Vancouver Island Federation of Hospices. So it's a nice little group of all of us on the island that we get together and share our experiences and how everybody is growing and how to be more diverse and more inclusive and, pay respect to different ways of grieving. There's a boatload of information out there. So we're always doing our part to make sure that we're current and we know what's going on. Our counselors do wonderful work in that regard. There's always going to be more that we can be doing, and I think it's just cultures and the diversity piece is coming to the forefront right now. So it's exciting now.
And I'm so delighted too, because it's time. I mean, it's
Exactly.
kind of avoided for a long time. I don't think that hospice has avoided it in any way. I've known the organization for a long time, and I do know the respect that you have for everyone, period. And so, but what I'm very delighted about is that as a province, as a country, we're starting to get a little bit more really aware about every aspect of all of us. And I think that it's so important that we continue to sort of facilitate that wherever we can. But it's not always easy, because a lot of people are afraid to come to hospice, or I'm not talking hospice specifically, I'm talking any organization, because they're not sure whether or not they're going to see or feel that they are understood. And so I think it's just really important that we acknowledge these different cultures and allow them to know. In actual fact, if you were to give them a call, you would probably find they would be pretty fabulous.
Yes. And that's the thing, is we're here, no matter your background or your experience, we're here to help you. And I mean, but also if we can learn things along the way that, if there's some unique ways different communities grieve or honor those who have passed, wonderful. I think it's great that, like you said, that us as a province and a country, we are really putting more stock into being more aware and acknowledging that, it's not just one little box.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that COVID has allowed us actually to really see where our challenges are. And, we can sort of lift those gaps and propel something a little bit more for everybody, for every part of our community to
Like,
just
I
get
mean,
better and
even just
better.
like, yeah,
Mhm.
for us too, accessibility is a huge thing that COVID
Yes.
really highlighted for us. And it's like, we're reaching I more clients in the sense because the accessibility is there. So it's COVID, as much as it's been a pain, has really brought a lot of silver linings
I
forward.
think so too. I love your positivity. I love your energy. Because it's so easy to be especially when we're talking, when your business is the business of grief. It's so easy to get lost in that bubble of, right. But
And
it's
but that's the thing is, I mean, death is a part of life, and it doesn't have to be a scary or bad thing. I mean, of course, it's heartbreaking, but I there's so many people that are like, oh, it must be so hard working around death all day, and it's like, it's really like, it's not like a morbid like I'm not upset every day, it's
I
just
hear you. Yeah.
it's it's a part of life, and there's a lot of beauty that comes from working through grief and kind of being acknowledging parts of your life and those who were important and whatnot. So it's just the part of the process.
It is. It's a very much a part of the process, and I love the celebratory side of things, right? I mean, really, it's a passage for sure, and depending on how comfortable that you can be with the fact that this is an inevitable situation for
Mhm.
everybody, you can
Mhm.
see just so much beauty. I mean,
Exactly.
I feel really blessed all the time. I've had the privilege through, many things in my career and in my life where I've been witness and privileged to be with a
Mhm.
person when they pass over. In some cases where they've had nobody else but the service that my organization at the time provided. And really at the end of the day, these people would have died alone. And so what I know for sure is that people are comfortable with grief if you allow them to just be okay with being comfortable with it. And you've hit the nail on the head several times during this conversation. Just be kind. Just
Yeah.
be kind. Be there. Be present. Be a part of it.
I mean, compassion goes a long, long way. Compassion to yourself as well as to others, right?
Yeah.
So it's just nobody knows that we don't all have all the answers,
No,
right? So
but
we
we're
are
not supposed to.
no exactly, and I think that's what makes it more fun.
Yeah, no doubt. No, well, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun right now at
Yeah.
Hospice in Nanaimo. Are you glad you made the transition? I'm sure you
Absolutely.
are. I mean, it's a kind of a loaded question.
It's funny though, because I had never pictured myself in the not-for-profit sector ever, because I just didn't speak that language. And it was, I think, early in the new year, because I started at the end of November. So it was early in the new year, and I had a moment with Jeannie, and I was like, I cried last night. She's like, why, what's wrong? And I was like, no, it's just a sense of ownership came over me. Like, this is my baby now. And I'm just
Yes.
so pleased. Like, I can't picture myself, and I mean, I've never been more confident in a position, myself in a position other than this. And I don't know why I didn't make the jump sooner, but it happened the way it
Hey,
was supposed to
it
happen.
happens on time.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just so pleased, and I'm just so happy to be a part of such a great organization. And I can't say enough. I think I've said it a million times today, but just the volunteers and our staff, it just makes, oh, it's coming to work is a lovely experience.
Really, really glad that coming to work is a lovely experience. I can already tell today's the first time that I will have had the privilege to have met you.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely delighted that you're in the position that you're at. I mean, as I said, I've had a long relationship with hospice. I've interviewed many of the staffers over time. I've participated in a lot of functions with hospice, and I have a deep connection and a deep love for everything that is hospice because of my life experience as well as my professional one. What I know for sure is that there's always a life lesson. There's always that moment, that piece that just goes, holy camole. And now's a really good time for us as we're closing out, nearing the end of our program already. I have a hard time believing we're already there, but we're getting there pretty darn quick. So I just sort of like to explore with you, your takeaway from all of this. Like if you could imbibe something, on the community, what might that look like?
I mean, it might sound cliche, but I think just it came out in so many ways throughout our conversation today is just honestly just lean into. I know I feel like that's a buzzword, but it's true. It's just, for me personally and professionally, like I didn't know this is not my background, and I'm really leaning in, and I'm having a wonderful time and having great successes here at hospice. And just, when it comes to if you're grieving or experiencing a loss, just acknowledge and lean in and be kind to yourself. I feel like that alone takes so much off your shoulders by just leaning into it and accepting it for what it is, right? And just kind of taking it and running with it. And on a positive note, like it's me, I'm okay, we're gone. We're going to the next level. Hospice is growing. So but I know it, I feel like it sounds cliche, but it's so true for me that just lean in.
I don't think it's cliche. I'm not sure that everybody has heard the term lean in. And I think it's such a beautiful, beautiful term, right? To me, it's not a buzzword. I really feel that it's a behavior, it's a choice, it's a decision to sort of say, I don't even, whatever's in front of me is in front of me. And I'm just going to be open to whatever this experience looks like.
Forward. Yeah, exactly. Because whether you're working through grief, whether you're changing your profession, whatever. I mean, you never know the experience that it's going to bring you.
Oh my goodness, isn't that the truth? Surprise! So just out of curiosity, just to explore that just a teeny bit more, what has been your biggest surprise since you've
honestly, okay, and this makes me maybe sound like I really didn't understand beforehand. My biggest eye-opener was how far community support goes, like behind the scenes on the back end. Like, yes, okay, I support not like organizations, charitable organizations, and I think I'm okay, here's a couple bucks or whatever, do or participate or whatever. And it's just how far that support goes, whether it's keeping our lights on or pushing towards a larger initiative like getting a standalone facility. It's just it's mind-boggling. That was my thing. It just surprised me how far it really, really, truly goes.
Yeah, I hear you. And really at the end of the day, especially now, more than ever, community, we need your support. No question about it. So there's a few ways that you can support hospice. There are a few. Let's remind our audience what they are before we close out the show.
Well, donations always, and you can do that online through our website, through Canada Helps. So it's NanaimoHospice.com. We are hosting 50-50 right now because we cannot do our traditional fundraising, and that's also online.
And the price for that so far is almost $8,000 from what we talked about earlier. That was a lot.
I know. So, and we've got 2 weeks, so we can still grow that pot. And yeah, tickets are on sale until the 31st. Draw is June 1st. So yeah, we've had to really just change the way we're fundraising. It's a lot of virtual based. We're hopeful that we'll get back to that face-to-face stuff soon.
But you can still get support from hospice. All you have to do is call.
Give us a call, 250-591-8811.
One more time.
250-591-8811.
Fantastic. And your website one more time, please.
NanaimoHospice.com. And you'll find all the things on there. So
yeah, and I realized that I have to go buy some 50-50 tickets, man. I didn't know you had a 50-50 drawing right at the moment. Oh my God, I need to buy tickets. I could use a little bit of that pot. Right. Having said that, I'm also looking forward to the Dream Home Lottery when that stuff comes up. Please keep us posted, and I hope that you'll come back onto the program and share with us all the good stuff that's going to go on with that as that comes forward. And I'm assuming tickets will be ready as soon as they're ready, right?
Yeah, we're putting them. I mean, I don't have a date for public yet, but it's looking like some end of summer.
Yeah, end of summer's looking good.
You
All
know,
right. And it's going to be a beautiful house too, which is
oh,
even more lovely up in the foothills.
you know, and
Is there a cash option as well? Is it money or cash, or is it just
it's going to
the
be
house?
just the house. This is our first one.
Yeah.
We're infants in this. So first one, dream home worth 1.7 mil, and there will be a 50-50 in conjunction with it.
Oh, wonderful. Well, listen, I'm hopefully we'll be able to have you and
Yes.
see the winner. Well, maybe not the winner, but for confidentiality reasons, that's probably not a good idea. But most definitely, maybe take a look at the house on our sister program, which is Act 3 on Shaw Spotlight. Thank you so much for joining us, Paige Karzinsky. Now I've lost it. I was see everybody who knows me, who knows that I do these shows, knows that I screw up people's names.
You did
Part
it.
of
You
the
got it.
charm.
No, it's really common, Kathy. Come on. No.
There you go.
A C and a Z and a Y.
That does it for us on this episode of Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. We are delighted that you joined us. Once again, I encourage you to check out our YouTube station and also follow Shaw Spotlight. Our second episode will be coming up in a couple weeks, so we're hoping that you're going to enjoy that program as well. You'll find it also on YouTube when it's on air. Thanks again for tuning in. We look forward to our next time, next Monday, same time, same station, 1 o'clock. Thanks for joining us and have a great day. Bye for now.